Dom, you ready to do some TDY with me and
Oh,
go,
you know it.
go on our last detail?
I wish I was more familiar with military jargon, but even if I were, most of the people I know were Army and not Navy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, some of the jargon is very similar or the same. Others differ, but TDY is a common term that's for temporary duty. It's probably even more so in the Navy, but every branch of the military, you could get called out to have to do some TDY, and they send you somewhere or have you do some special detail. And that's what's going on here. But I'm going to let you introduce this movie, the great movie that I picked for this
Yep,
week.
yep.
It's a great movie, not because I picked it. It's because,
It's
just
just
because it
plain a
is.
great. I mean, it's a classic. Let's face it.
Yes, yeah.
If you know Nicholson, you know The Last Detail.
A lot
19,
of people say it's his finest work, but yeah,
man, that's a tough one.
I know.
That's like saying like what's De Niro's finest work or
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Hoffman. It's
yeah, yeah. No, that's very true. But go ahead and give the intro before I keep rambling.
okay. So The Last Detail, 1973, directed by Ashby and based on a novel of the same name by Daryl Pon Ponixan.
Yeah, it's hard to pronounce his name.
I know. So we follow two Navy lifers, um, uh, badass Budowski and Mulhall,
Yeah,
who are sent on temporary detail. They're supposed to pick up this young, not cadet, but probably ensign. I don't really remember what.
yeah. He's definitely probably an ensign. He doesn't have rank, doesn't have any time in. He's only 18, so yeah,
Yeah, and so he ended up stealing $40, but because he stole $40 from a pet project of the commanding officer, he
yeah,
got the full punishment thrown at him, and he's going away to naval prison for 8 years.
yeah. Which is
And
incredible. I mean, people don't do that kind of time for petty crimes like that anymore. But back then, it could happen.
and so while the two lifers can't do anything to change the sentence, they decide to take their time getting the kid to jail and showing him a good time along the way.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that makes the story so damn incredible is that these two guys, Nicholson and
Otis Young.
yeah, Mulhall, the two of them get this job. They really don't want anything to do with. They're waiting for their orders. They're at a base, frozen, waiting for their orders to come in, and they're two Navy lifers. But like I said, they're awaiting orders, and it's not happening. And then they get assigned this shit duty to take this kid up there. And at the start, their whole thing is let's just get this over with quick. We'll collect the pay, and as soon as we get his ass up to Portsmouth, we'll have the extra money and we'll have some time and we can have some fun. And that's what they're looking for is pay and time away from that, you know, shitty base that they've been stuck at. So so they get this kid and they start going along with them, and they really start realizing, wow, this kid got shafted. He's completely shafted just because the admiral's wife happened to be over this fund, and it's her pet project that she gets credit for every year. So when they start to realize this kid is only 18, he's got shafted and he's never done anything in his life. He's been really sheltered and he's an innocent. And so they
Well, not
decide,
entirely innocent. He's a
well, no,
complete klepto.
well, he's a kleptomaniac. That's one of the things that's really funny. Is
That is
that
hilarious.
it's really funny. He keeps pulling shit out of his
I
coat
had it with
sleeve.
me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're on a train. They're on a train, and Mulhall looks at him and goes, "Where'd you get the candy bar?" And he's like, "Oh, I had that." it, it's absolutely hilarious. I mean, this movie just clicks on so many levels. But yeah, so yeah, they go from rushing this kid up there to suddenly they're like, well, let's take our time. Let's and they're laying over, they're drinking in hotels that they're staying at. They're doing whatever they can. And this
Man, they
kid is
put
go
so much beer away over the course of this movie.
yeah, yeah. Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, and a lot of old time beers too too.
I'm
But
looking at the scenes and I'm like, how are these people able to stand?
yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, I mean it's huge amounts of beer that they're putting away. Because I would have been pretty much falling down drunk with some of the scenes. But hey, they're Navy too, so Navy knows how to
Yeah, it's
Navy and
true.
Mar- Navy and Marines. I mean, all branches of the service. I think drinking is something you really learn to do. But the Navy and the Marines really know how to put away their booze, and they do it with style. So, but and that's the other thing with this movie is the classic rivalry between the Marines and the Navy has
Hmm.
always existed. I mean, they make jokes about the Navy makes jokes about we transport the Marines around and they don't have any other way, and the Marines joke about yeah there are taxi service. It's basically so it's funny. They definitely fully get into that whole thing. But the stars that are in this, my God, um, you have everybody from naturally the stars, and a really baby faced young Randy Quaid, and
In literally the best performance of his life.
yeah, I'll tell you, it is. It absolutely is. And were looking for the guy, there was another guy that whose name escapes me right now. They were going to cast, and when they were going to cast the guy, Randy Quaid auditioned, and they looked at him and they were saying, well, this guy is like he's nothing of what we were looking for and what's in the description in the book. Supposed to be a smaller guy,
Hmm.
and he's a big hulking character, and it's like how do we sell the idea of this guy being like vulnerable? And Hal Ashby looked at it and said, "This kid exudes vulnerability. That's he's all about vulnerability. He just completely and it's true. That's exactly what he looks like. When you watch him in different scenes, he goes sometimes from being a little bit, wild to all of a sudden he's breaking down, he's crying, and Nicholson keeps trying to tell him, "Be a man, fight back," and this scene right here where they're in the hotel and he's telling him, haven't you ever got mad? Haven't you ever wanted to fight? And he's trying to like he goes, hit me. And I can't hit you. I like you. But no,
Yeah,
it's
Randy
it
Quaid did a great job. He totally sold the, innocent 18-year-old.
yeah, yeah, totally. And
From what I read, the lineup they wanted was Burt Reynolds for Jack Nicholson's character,
yeah, I did hear that. And
Jim Brown
yeah,
for
yeah,
Otis Young's character,
yeah,
and David Cassidy.
yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. And nothing against any one of those three because I, I've seen Jim Brown in some roles I really liked him in, including 100 Rifles. But first of all, I definitely don't think he had the acting depth that Mulhall has in this one. And
Mhm.
and the other thing is Burt Reynolds. I love Burt Reynolds in many roles, but I also think he was better in either comedy based or action based. This is a more nuanced
It-
role.
It's it's a very nuanced comedy. This is a type of movie that you would call a comedy, and I would be like, wow, we've got totally different ideas of funny.
Yeah, Yeah, we do
It's
that
not quite
often
that
with,
bad. I see how this is a comedy
yeah,
in certain aspects, but it's a very subdued comedy with a lot of drama mixed in.
it is, and it's almost a tragic comedy in some
Hmm.
ways.
Hmm.
Even just the way the whole thing wraps up at the end, it's a bittersweet comedy, or comedy. It's a bittersweet movie that
Hmm.
that
Yeah, they're
encompasses.
not exactly walking him to the gallows, but it's
No,
not that far off.
no, and there's a whole lot of things with Portsmouth. I mean, Portsmouth actually closed a year after the that castle,
Hmm.
which I don't know if you ever remember seeing it.
Oh, I remember it.
Yeah, and I used to when I was a kid. Um, I remember going fishing with my dad and a friend of his. He would ride us around. We were flounder fish right off of where that prison was, and I remember looking at that prison and just as a kid, especially my eyes, it looks like a castle for anyone that hasn't ever seen.
God, I wish I had thought to
I know
get
I
a
should have
photo of
gotten a
that.
picture of it myself and I didn't. But it looks like a big giant castle. It still sits there today. And it's abandoned, but the Navy keeps a or security keeps an eye on it. Um,
It's an
uh,
amazing looking building.
well, your cousin Frank has actually been inside of it when he was doing guard duty at the Navy Yard. They would have them go and check on the building just to make sure it was secure. And it's a building that is extremely creepy at nighttime.
Oh,
um,
I can imagine.
but it's yeah. So, but it had a long history. Now, as bad as Portsmouth Navy Yard was, and I did look up a little bit of stuff on the prison was terrible during the earlier years. It's been used for many years, many years, including housing German prisoners during the Second World War, um, and I think the treatment was terrible for the not only the German prisoners but even our own. One of the things that I did learn about the prison, and that is that a lot of the people that were getting sent there on sodomy and homosexual charges because for a long time the Navy was not acknowledging homosexuals in its ranks, and there are plenty of homosexuals in all branches of the service and that serve quite well, but they were sending them there um, just because maybe somebody reported them or they got caught doing something or whatever, and the treatment was pretty brutal. So that was one of the things that was going on for many years until the Navy decided, okay, we can't just be sending guys to the brig and giving them prison time because of something like this. And it made them start to look a little differently at what they were doing. But yeah, it was known for a long time, but as being brutal. By the time this rolled around in the early 70s, the prison had changed a lot, and it was a lot better. So prison ain't a good thing one way or another, but no one's going to say that it is. But it was a lot better, and that's another thing is what happens at the end, because here they show this kid a really good time. I mean, they get him laid for the first time. They take him to a brothel and get him laid, and they take him out drinking. They just show him a really good time. He's having a blast, and and then at the end he starts freaking out naturally. He's realizing, wow, I'm going to the yard and I'm going to be there for 8 years. And he freaks out and runs on them. And when he
Hmm.
does, Nicholson is furious because it's like a betrayal of, they've been helping this kid and doing whatever they could for him. And there's another thing about, I don't know whether that's a really true thing, but I have heard before that sailors on shore patrol lose a prisoner, that they can be subject to having to do the prisoner's time. Now,
Oh
I don't know
wow.
what, yeah, I don't know whether that's true or not, but it's one reason why there's a real incentive to not lose a prisoner. And they chase them down, and it's actually on the common in Boston. They chase them down, and that's another thing. A lot of scenes were not filmed where they said they were. A lot
Oh
of it
well,
was,
well, of course. I mean, think of the way they portrayed the U.S. Navy.
yeah,
The
yeah.
U.S. Navy was not exactly excited to allow filming on their bases when that's how they're being talked about.
No, that's something. It's true, but in this at the same time, I for a really, I came away from this like I came away from this with the it's go Navy. It was these guys were cool, tough guys that were. I mean, they had their own vulnerabilities and their own problems, but for the most part, these guys were like it was looked at as kind of a fun time too. Not so much for the 18-year-old kid, but I mean they were having a good time too. And even the fight in the bathroom, that was hysterical. The fight where and Nicholson knew exactly what he was doing. He put up his pistol in the locker. He went into the bathroom where he knew there was a whole detail of Marines.
Hmm.
He goes up there, and he knows damn well the Marine's going to start something with him. And he gets to the urinal, and he's standing there at the urinal, and one of the Marines makes a joke about the 13 buttons on his pants, and he goes, "Well, if I was a Marine, all I'd have to do is take my cover off, my take my hat off." So of course it starts something, and he was lucky enough that just then Randy Quaid and Mulhall come in, and for one of the few times where Randy Quaid showed aggression, he actually knocked the hell out of one of those Marines, cold cocked him, and
Yeah, but
they,
that wasn't really aggression. It wasn't like he got so mad.
that's true.
He attacked. He was defending his
Yeah, he
friend.
was he was helping out a fellow sailor. So which hey, if you're a Marine or a sailor, our army, you should be protecting your guys. And but but yeah, like I said, I did see this as kind of it's braggadocio. It's there's a little bit of that. This is cool. This is you know go Navy. So I can appreciate you know, like I said, it's there's ups and downs with this movie, and there's things you think to yourself, man, but a lot of people that served in the Navy look back at this movie if they served around that time, and they go, oh man, I remember those times, and a lot of them it was like that's the best time of my life.
Yeah, I
So
mean the whole thing rang true.
yeah,
Mostly because of the performances, but they didn't come off as gung ho military. They
no,
were,
they
this is
no,
what I do. Like,
yeah.
how come it's another day?
But that's kind of what you do in life anyway. I mean, if I don't care what it is you do, you could have probably the best job in the world, and it becomes mundane, and it's the same old, same old. And I definitely think that's true with military service. And these two guys behind me, they're both lifers. These guys are in for life.
Hmm.
They recognize it. They know that they're lifers, and they're doing their job. So there's a little bit of dreariness in doing your everyday job. That is a great scene. I
This
love that.
scene was insane.
It was so damn good. And
I'm
yeah,
like, holy crap, you're pulling a gun on
yeah,
some random bartender.
yeah, yeah,
I
because
mean, what, not some random bartender, some racist bartender.
yeah, yeah. Well, he actually was so many bad things, including racist. But he didn't want the kid in there because he was underage. He didn't want the Navy in there because they were Navy, and he sure didn't want Mulhall in there
Now,
either.
Would he have been underage? Like, when was the drinking age raised to 21? I didn't think it was back then.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I actually think. Um, I actually think. I actually think you could serve or serve. You could actually. Well, you could serve people 18 back then. I don't think that happened until probably maybe the late 70s or something for a lot of states. I don't think it got like
Oh, that's
pushed.
right. It was a state thing because when I was in college, I'm pretty sure Vermont was still 18.
Yeah, there was. I'm pretty sure that's what the deal was, and then it universally came across as being. There were so many. There were so many college kids that were dying from over drinking and alcohol poisoning. There were so many car crashes and problems like that that they it's like anything. If you start having a lot of problems with a certain age group, then they say, well, they're too young, they can't handle it, so they raise the age, which I don't always think is necessarily the answer. um Totally. I get it, but I mean, what was it? Bob Dylan saying you're old enough to vote, but you're old enough to serve, but not for voting.
Mhm.
And that's another problem. It's if you're saying, well, you're old enough to do this, but and even like as far as firearms, they say, well, if you're serving, you can carry a firearm, but if you're not, which again, I can sort of see that because at least with a military person, at least they're having experience handling the weapon and hopefully more responsible, but maybe not. But this scene, getting back to this scene, it's great when the bartender it really starts getting bad because he won't serve this kid, and he doesn't want to serve any of them, but he doesn't want to serve the kid for sure. And and when Nicholson is yelling at him, "You're going to give him a drink," and he goes, "I'm going to call Shore Patrol." And that's when he pulls out that he goes, "I am goddamn Shore Patrol." But and when they get outside the bar, that's hysterical too because he's like, "Wow, you're nuts!" Like,
So I gotta ask, where did you first see this film? Like on TV or in the theater?
I'm sure it was on TV. This was not a movie that I probably would have seen in it was 1973. So I mean, I wasn't going to the movies as much probably back then. All my movies were probably it was TV. That's where I was seeing everything. And I'm pretty sure I saw this late at night, probably by myself the first time. And I remember watching this and thinking, this is a frigging cool movie. And I loved it from the first time that I saw it. And by the
So
way, this is
go
another
on.
scene. This is another scene with Randy Quaid eating the candy and Mulhall looking at him. It's like, where did you get that one? I know you didn't have that one. But I'm
But
sorry.
yeah, so they had to film certain scenes separately for TV because this movie had so much profanity in it.
Oh yeah, yeah. They, they,
In
they,
fact, in
they
fact, the screenplay was done in 1970
yeah,
and they wanted to start, but the studio said we can't film a movie with this much profanity in it.
yeah,
The
yeah,
screenwriter didn't want to budge, didn't want to back down. And the only reason it got filmed is because by 72, the profanity restrictions had been loosened enough that
yeah.
they could go forward.
Well, yeah, and a lot of movies were being uh, censored purely on language, so things had loosened up quite a bit. But if you know anything about the military, um, and believe me, I grew up as an army brat. I worked on bases. I mean, I've been around the military a lot, and I have a pretty good familiarity for being I've never served, and I'm not proud to say that because I actually think it's a good, really good thing to serve, and like I said, I almost feel like I spent my military time just growing up, in a family of military. We moved all over the place, which I love. I think it was a good experience, but I was definitely an army brat. I've lived it all over the world and all over the country, and it's definitely a different and a rich experience for, if you're a military brat. But military swear, and they swear a lot, probably more than
There's
any.
a reason there's a saying, curse like a sailor.
Yes, absolutely. So the F word, um, I'll try not to get us in trouble by by actually throwing that out there. My language is pretty colorful at times myself, but the F word is very, very. All swears are very common in the Navy and in the military. They all swear, but and by the way, this behind me, this picture, that's Hal Ashby talking to Nicholson and Mulhall. And I'm going to call him Mulhall. I keep forgetting his name. I'm sorry, but anyway, Hal Ashby. A lot of this was filmed in Canada
Yeah.
because they had access to bases that our Navy was. They saw Hal Ashby and they were like, "There's no way this guy's going to portray the Navy favorably," which I think he did in a lot of ways. I think, to me, like I said, I look at this as. I look at this as a lot of people would look at this and say, "Hey, I want to sign up and serve. This is a fun time."
Well, I mean, a lot of people look at this as a Navy film, but it's
Yeah,
really not. He doesn't portray the Navy in any certain way. He portrays these two humans that
yeah.
just happen to be in the Navy.
Well, I believe the author was ex-Navy. I believe and he also wrote that one, the Last Flag, or Last
Yep,
Flags.
yep. The sequel to this.
Yes, which which again, I actually just recently saw that too. I had seen part of that movie, and I went back and I'm not a huge fan of that movie, but I do definitely it's good, but it's not great. But this one is great. It's just absolutely great. But yeah, Hal Ashby was busted for weed when he was in Canada, and they had to go through a whole thing with, and that lost them access to some of the areas uh, that they were going to film at. So that created problems. But if you look at Hal Ashby, you can tell Hal Ashby was enjoying his weed back in 1973, as I'm sure they all were. But anyway, the cast in this, that is Nancy Allen, a young Nancy Allen, before, yeah, right behind you, the great Carol Kane.
I
Uh,
know.
she's she is so beautiful in this, and she looks so young and vulnerable. She's playing a whore in this, but she's a real sweet young vulnerable one, and it's funny too, because when Nicholson's like saying, because he's given an opportunity to pick his girl, that they walk into the whorehouse, and Nicholson's like, "Go ahead, man, like make your pick," and he's standing there looking around. He chooses Carol Kane, and when he does, he goes, that's a good pick, man." So, but yeah, she's absolutely beautiful in this. Like
I
I said,
mean, again, not much screen time, hardly any lines, and still an amazing performance.
yeah, and the funny part too is she had that. She's always had this gothicy look to her. She looks like she stepped, similar to Bernadette Peters, is another actress that I would say has that quality. They look like they stepped out of the 1800s or something.
Hmm.
And this one, she's got the dark shadowing under her eyes and around her eyes, and she looks like this gothicy waif that just stepped out of nowhere. And on the one hand, she's got this sort of like seasoned attitude of a whore, and on the other hand, she also has this young, vulnerable quality to her. She did a terrific job for just another actress would have played this, and it would have just been, oh, they're playing a whore and they're not. It's not. This was a nuanced role for her. She did a wonderful job in this, and for a short role, man, she played it well. But again, look at the cast in this, though. The people that were in this movie. It's amazing how many names. Um, and again, in the prime of their life, but Nicholson and Quaid and Carol Kane,
Clifton
Nancy.
James.
What's that?
Clifton James.
Oh yes, absolutely. No, it goes on and on. This is and the other thing too, Hal Ashby, he's done some terrific movies. He's really done some terrific movies, and the fact that he got a hold of this one and got his hands on it, it's the masterpiece that it is because of him. You really got to give it to him. So Hal Ashby did a wonderful job. But yeah, like I said, I and there's the scene where he's standing there having to make his choice and pick, and he looks right at Carol Kane. That was another funny thing is when they ended up going into that room. That's a great scene. They hear the chanting going on outside, which that was real big back then.
Yep.
People would go to these workshops and they would really get into the chanting for things that you wanted, which becomes an overall theme in this. But that's a great scene. Them talking to the Navy and Navy and hippies or military period, because back then the Vietnam War
Talk
was
about the
going on.
rift between them.
Oh my God! And the poor military at the time, because they got stuck in a bad position with Vietnam, and but everybody got blamed because they were serving. So yeah, like I said, that was but like this scene with Nicholson, and he's talking to Nancy Allen, and he knows damn well he doesn't have a chance in hell. He's trying hard, but he figures there's no way because these hippie girls that are sitting around, they're all like, yeah, and the scene behind you, they're asking like, what are you doing in the Navy? Like, what's what's and they're asking all these like pointed military questions, um, designed to make them feel even worse, But no, like I said, it manages to bring so many things into one movie without, a lot of times when you see a movie that has too much info going on and they're going in too many directions, you say, this movie was all over the place. This movie was all over the place in a really structured, well formed way.
It was all over the place, but it had the center linchpin of these three.
Yes.
These three making a journey.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And this scene here is hysterical. And that is Hal Ashby, by the way, in the
Oh yeah.
in that bar scene. He actually was which some of his movies he puts himself in the scene.
Yeah,
But
he's playing darts.
that's yeah, Nicholson playing darts with their money, with their with their pay money, and and at one point Mulhall says to Randy Quaid, he goes, "We got to get him out of here. he's gambling with our money," and damned if he doesn't win, and walks out of there and they gives them all like what was it, $50 or something like that which was good money back then. So
yeah, it's probably the equivalent of a few hundred these days.
So yeah, they not only had a good time, but a little bit of fear there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, everywhere they went, I mean, they're pretty much having a good time, and the drinking scenes back at the hotels were hysterical. They were there, and then the signalman thing was great too. You felt bad for Randy Quaid because
Oh, you felt so bad for Randy Quaid. I mean, that's the whole thing. It was clearly a comedy. There were funny things, but there was also a dark pall over everything that happened because you
yeah,
knew the inevitability of what they were going to.
Well, and his military career really. And by the way, look at all the beer in that scene behind me. But there's beer everywhere. There's empty bottles and cans of beer. And by the way, the cans were those big, heavy metal cans back then. And when you put like they actually were pulling flip tabs, and this one, just a few years before, you were having to use a church key to open a can opener to open a can of beer. And if you didn't have a church key, unless you had something to punch into that beer and open it, then you were screwed. But those cans back then, people like you got a can like I've got this can of Diet Coke. That can is made of nothing, and you crush it without even thinking. Back then, if you crushed a can of beer, it took strength in your arm.
Well, I mean, weren't those steel?
Yeah, they were steel cans. Yes, absolutely. I remember when I got to be around 12 or 13, I remember taking cans of grandfather's beer and like after he finished it, and I'd be like going like this and trying to crush the can because I saw people crushing it. And man, the amount of strength that it took. And when I finally got to the point where I could actually crush a can, it was like, wow, this is awesome. I'm starting to get strong. But it was hard to do. But yeah, like I said, this movie for me this hit on all levels. I just love the movie, absolutely love it. And the other one we were talking about, that last flag flying, whatever. I just got through seeing that also.
How was that?
It's it's good. I kind of would, if you're looking for something to watch on a just maybe more bored, but it isn't this one. It's not this movie to me is so much better. This was from another book that was supposed to be it was supposed to be a sequel kind of to The Last Detail, but I don't consider it to be a sequel in any way. It's basically about a guy who was a sailor that served with two Marines, got in trouble and had to do rig time over some stupid decisions that were made. That's the cast right there, and which good cast, but
Wow, I don't even recognize Bryan Cranston.
yeah, yep, Bryan Cranston and it's
Steve
um,
Carell and Lawrence
yeah, and Steve
Fishburne.
Carell. I don't know whether he was correctly cast in this, but I think he did a good job. It's it's um, it's a good role, but it's like I said, he goes to his former friends, the two Marines that got him in trouble, and revisits them first to Bryan Cranston, and he says to Bryan Cranston, um, um, my son died in action in Iraq, and would you? And so they updated the story because I don't. The original one was probably Vietnam, but at any rate, they updated it for current times. But Cranston is like totally. He runs a bar. He's a heavy drinker. So not to get too far into it, but the basic story is they try to do like a buddy story like this one, where the two guys accompanying him, they end up like having a good time on the way. They find out that his son was not killed in a heroic way, the way he was portrayed to have served, and his son was a Marine. He was a sailor, but his son was a Marine, and a friend of his son ends up telling them why or how he got killed, and it was just kind of a mishap. So the father decides, and I think completely unfairly, um, well, we can't bury him in Arlington. He doesn't belong there. So he wants to take
Mm.
him home. He wants to bury him not in his uniform, um, which is scandalous to the Marines. Uh, there's a very tough Marine officer that is really resisting. He said this kid deserves a burial and a proper burial, and he deserves to be buried in his uniform. and he's fighting him, and he's saying, "No, I'm going to take him home. I'm going to put him in his graduation suit, and I'll bury him in New Hampshire because he's from New Hampshire, Portsmouth, actually." um,
It's all
but
central to Portsmouth.
yeah, so they are transporting the kid's coffin, and over the course of the transportation, he does end up burying the kid in his military dress uniform, which to me was the only right thing to do. The kid was a proud Marine, whether or not he died in action in a glorified situation. It was a mishap. He went into a store to buy whatever they were buying, and food, drink, whatever, and some jihadists like fired a rocket into the store and blew it up and killed the kid. So but it was put down as he died fighting in action, and so yeah, it was misrepresented, but at the same time, he was serving.
I mean,
He was
that's technically combat.
it is, it absolutely is. He was in a combat situation, and he died from.
You're in a dangerous land.
Yeah,
You can and should expect to be attacked at any
yeah.
time.
Well, he died from hostile fire. So I mean, what do you want? And like I said, not I'll end this because this isn't what we're talking about, but I just had to say
It has more of a connection than a lot of our digressions.
that's true. That's true. And like I said, uh, it's a good movie. I would say it's worth a watch, but I don't think it's nothing like this. And if you're looking for this movie, after I rewatched this one and I love this one so much, and to go from that to the newer one, it doesn't hold up the same way. So if you're looking for that movie, you're not going to find it. However, it's a decent movie. And by the way, there is the Boston Common behind me, and you can't see because of my head, but Nicholson has actually pulled out his 45 again, and I think he's putting a magazine in, and it's like, don't shoot this kid at this point. But he was so furious, and that's the other thing is when they bring him to the base, there's Randy Quaid crying on the train. But when they bring the kid to Portsmouth and they get him there, he's all beaten up, and because they're pounding him when they finally capture him, then the adrenaline flowing, they're punching him, and Nicholson's beating him with his gun, and he shows up, his face is all bloodied, and the OD that receives him right there behind me, he's like, how dare you bring me a prisoner in this condition, and explain yourself. And then he's asking, did he try to run? Did he try to escape? And of course, now they got a cover for the kid because they're going to add years to his charges if they say, yeah, he tried to escape. So both of them are just like, no, he didn't try. But yeah, like I said, I love this. I love this movie in so damn many ways. It's just terrific. It brings your emotions up and down too. You go from times where you're laughing and you're happy and you're thinking, oh, this is great, it's sweet, it's nice, and then it's like something bad happens, and so it's up and down. Man, I so highly recommend this movie. I truly love it. Like I said, I saw it when I was probably 12, 13 years old, and it's aged well. That's another thing is
it's sort of timeless.
yes, it is. It absolutely is timeless. This movie, to me, another 10, 20 years, I could be speaking incorrectly, but another 10, 20 years, I think it still would hold up. It's that good. Just a great movie. And I love how they go through different cities, because there's some time in Boston. They insist on bringing the kid to his mother,
Yeah.
which was a huge mistake. And he doesn't they're like, well, he should see his mother before he goes in for 8 years, and plus they're trying to tell him, yeah, you're only going to do six because you get out on good behavior, and it's like 6 years. That's still a long time for an 18-year-old kid to be serving in a prison that's a federal prison like that. It's a tough prison. It's a long time, but they definitely, when they get to the kid's mother's home, it's clear she's probably not doing real super well and probably was like that his entire life, which explains a lot about him. And the house is a mess. There's a lot of bottles around the house, almost as many as
Yeah.
almost as many as their hotel rooms. But
I didn't end up not getting a screenshot, but did you recognize Gilda Radner?
oh my God, yeah, young Gilda Radner's in this. That's another. Yes, I did, and that's the thing about this movie is there's no end to the like little cameo roles of people who
This
became great actors and actresses.
this movie was packed with talent, from the
Yeah.
director to the cast to everyone.
Mm. And everyone was sort of just emerging. All the people that are in this, and oddly enough, Randy Quaid probably had the more subdued of careers of anybody, and yet at the same time, man, this is the role of a lifetime for him.
Mhm.
It is his finest work, I truly believe. As
Without a
as
doubt.
as good as Cousin Eddie is, and Christmas Vacation, and the vacation movies, this role definitely exceeds it, and that's the other thing. It shows how good he can be as an actor, because he people know him as, for better or worse, people know him as Cousin Eddie in Christmas Vacation and vacation movies, but he's a lot more than just that role. He's and he shows it with this role here. So big props to Randy Quaid. Does a
Mhm.
terrific job. If you know him as Cousin Eddie, you'll kind of be surprised. He's a baby in this movie, and he's just
Well,
he's
everyone
terrific.
is so young in this movie.
He really is, and the vulnerability that he shows, they were absolutely right in the casting because
That was
they were
spot on.
worried. Well, look how big he is. I mean, he's a big dude. He's towering over Nicholson in that scene behind you, and here he is on the. And, I mean, look, he's taller than Mulhall and Buddusky, the badass. He's way bigger than them, but yeah, at the same time, the kid's completely vulnerable, and it's one of the charming aspects of the movie, and it makes the you really feel for him. He's he's just this poor kid that got himself, yeah, he's a klepto, but I mean, he kind of almost can't help
And
himself.
somewhat of a screw up.
Yeah, yep, he's a screw up. He's he's the kind of guy. I don't think he ever would have been. He's not like Nicholson and Mulhall. He's he's he was never going to be a lifer. Although if he became a signalman, who knows? Maybe he would have found his place. He when Nicholson was teaching him how to be a signalman, he actually really he took to it immediately. He goes, "Wow, kid, you're a natural." And unfortunately, um, the he never got that chance, and so, but yeah, like I said, I don't see him as a lifer like the other two, but if he had had a chance, he might have actually adapted and become a, a more viable human being than to have ended up the way he ended up. So that part is truly sad, but he
This
but he
is
does grow. He does grow. Go
He
ahead. I'm sorry.
does. So you're absolutely right. I could keep heaping honorifics on this
Yeah.
movie because it is so good, but I'm just going to say two thumbs up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Definitely two thumbs up, and it's so good. It's such a good movie that I mean I have to say I would give this one 1,000 thumbs up if I had a thousand thumbs up. It's
Yeah,
that good.
this is a movie that I will call truly art. It's
Yeah,
just so well done. It's so
yeah,
well crafted.
yeah. No, there's no end of praise in this one. It's just good. And I mean, like I said, we talked about that. You just mentioned Gilda Radner, Nancy Allen, very young Nancy Allen is in this. It's just on and on and on. So yeah, and look at the cases of Schlitz
Does
on
Schlitz
the
even still exist?
probably it does, although maybe I don't know. I never really liked Schlitz. For anyone that was a Schlitz lover, I've heard so many jokes that there's a really bad, dirty joke that I've heard about Schlitz. But anyway, actually, there's probably more than one. But but yeah, um, like I said, it was never a beer that appealed to me. It's not my beer. Nowadays, for beer, it's probably mostly I lean towards like a Coors Light. That's Coors Light, or and that I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a. I know you like your IPAs.
I do. I've
So
been known to go basic PBR though. I mean, there's
yeah,
nothing
yeah,
wrong with PBR.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, like I said, it's I mean, Corona and lime in the summertime. There's nothing better, man. Corona
Yep.
Extra with
Yep.
lime. That's a great summer beer. So we're both gonna want to start drinking some beers now. But unfortunately, I have to go to work. But anyway, yeah, we probably should call this one in, and we'll have to say that I think we both thoroughly agreed it's a great movie, and
It's objectively a fantastic movie.
it really,
I think anyone that could watch that and not think that was a great movie would be lying.
yeah, yeah, lying, or they just don't. They're not a movie person.
Or they're not a movie person.
By the way, this thing, I just put this one up, and I have to laugh too because I loaned this movie on DVD to a buddy who had never seen it,
Huh.
where I worked, and this was the cover of the DVD. It was not a Blu-ray; it was a DVD. It was back a few years, and I was telling him about the movie, and he was like, "Wow, I'd like to see it." So I brought the movie and I handed him the movie, and he goes, what kind of movie really is this? It's Jack Nicholson with no shirt on and a sailor hat, and he's like, "Is this some kind of porn movie or something?"
I think you know what kind of movie this is.
So I said, "No, no, that's not." But the cover is hysterical, and why they picked that for the cover, I don't know, because
That's a perfect cover.
it probably is. Nicholson actually is without his shirt in many scenes,
And he
and
truly does look like he's posing for
it
like
does.
a gay porno or something.
Yeah, it's hysterical. So like I said, I started laughing when my buddy goes, well, he goes, "What are you giving me? Like a male porno movie?" And I said, "No, no, it's it's a real movie." So yeah, so I just had to add that one last little. But listen, everybody, we did the thumbs up. We're calling it in. So please like, subscribe if you would. And Dom, what is your pick for next week? It's your
So
ball.
I got to tell
I
you, we've been picking movies that are too well known. Yeah, they're great movies,
Yeah,
but one of the things that excited me about this channel is being able to expose people to movies that just aren't as well known,
yeah,
just
more
don't get
obscure.
watched enough. And so my pick for next week is going to be, I can't remember if it's 2015 or 2016, psychological horror. They look like people.
Okay, I've heard that name. I know the title. I don't think I've seen it.
Didn't not many people have.
Yeah, and
It's on Tubi.
yeah. So actually, if you would, and again, John was just saying it. Actually, were you saying it in the short when you were talking about this movie? But we're not being paid by Tubi. We're not sponsoring Tubi. We speak very highly of it. But Tubi is a great channel for people that want access to movies that are terrific and bad and good.
The amount of material it has on that absolutely free
Yeah,
platform is
with
amazing to me.
just some ads. Yeah, it's wonderful. And to tell you the truth, I mean, I knew about Tubi and I was what, but you brought up Tubi so many times. There have been many movies recently that I've caught on it. I love it. We don't get sponsored by them. If they want to sponsor us, um, we need sponsorship. But but no, you know, it's a wonderful channel with a lot of choices. So yeah, and do me a favor too.
I will
I'm
text
sure,
you.
yeah, and I'm sure you're going to send some links, but set some links for this one if you would, because there's so much
Oh
with this.
yeah.
So yeah, we'll wrap it up. We got your pick for next week, and I'm excited because I love catching movies that I haven't seen, or
I'll be very interested in seeing what you think of it.
yeah. So Dom, I'm gonna with having said that, let's call it a wrap, and I will see you next week.
You will see me next week.
Okay.
Another movie, another week.
Yep. And bye, folks, and thanks for watching.